That's the place where they have all of the collection of different footage.
Yeah.
It's the archive place.
That's pretty much all I know about it. I don't know anything else really.
It's one of the biggest archives of film.
To be honest, I don't know anything about MACE at all.
I don't really know a lot about MACE. I know it's situated just over there.
I know it's behind me, and that they have lots of old footage of things like news broadcasts and stuff that's happened in the past, and they generally just sort it all out.
No.
No.
I've never really
It's not even
needed
needed
to.
No, I
Never
mean,
needed
we do
to.
radios.
No, I've never used it.
I don't really know what MACE is used for, so I don't know what use I would get out of it.
No, because, well, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I think it would benefit me to know more about MACE so that I could use some of their footage in my filming.
I would like to know what MACE is.
It would be really nice to know what they're all about.
I think if I knew what I could use it for, and if I knew better, like if I knew it had more relevant uses for me, then yeah, I think it would be more reasonable for me to know about it.
But I think it'd be a good idea to make it more of a big deal, because it is a big deal.
Yeah, people need to, because we have the facilities for it, so why don't people use it? But then again, we don't know as much about it as we could do, so...
I don't even know if you have to get authorisation to go in or not.
I have no idea.
I think it needs to be talked about a lot more than what it is.
Film archiving is relatively quite a young thing. The first film archive in the United Kingdom wasn't established until 1935. I think film's really important. I've always thought film's really important. It gives me a great opportunity to make a contribution to the resources which are going to be available for future historians and people understanding the way that we live now, and that is important to me.
On a daily basis, my job does tend to change. It sort of depends on the kind of work we have on at the minute. Largely, I handle the analog side of digitization, so I do all of the prep work. So I go through whichever type of film or video it is and get it prepped and ready for transfer.
When I finished my degree, I went to work in a university library, and that was always my kind of intention, was to work in a university library. But when I qualified as a professional librarian, the first professional job that I got was as a film cataloguer at the National Film Archive at the British Film Institute, and I sort of settled myself there in a kind of a big way and stayed at the BFI for 20 years, so I sort of fell into film archiving.
We're working on a project with the British Film Institute at the moment to digitise a large amount of films and put them on the BFI's own player, and to do that we have to write a lot of contextual information that goes around it. So I'm always researching things and writing content to go with the films within the collection.
So what I'm doing here is winding through to check to see if any of the splices need repairing or replacing. This one is fine, so I'm just going to move on and keep winding through. And we do that with every splice to make sure it will capture well and not break during transfer.
I started MACE. There wasn't a MACE until until I encouraged its existence as part of my job at the BFI, and then I left the BFI to come and run it some 10 years after that happened. So I was its founding director, if you like.
I think one of the main problems as a cataloguer, curator, researcher is a lot of films come into the collection with no information with them at all. There may not even be anything written on the can, and people who filmed them, often we're talking about things that might be 70, 80 years old, and there isn't that first-hand contact with the film, which is really important. So it's a sort of archaeological exercise to try and find out what's going on, who shot the film, where does it come from, and try and determine why it might be important to the region.
At the moment, we're in the archive store, which is where we keep all of the film and videotape at a stable temperature and humidity level, which helps preserve the film.
Students can use the collection for their project, and we're happy to facilitate that as far as we possibly can. Students need to come to us, giving us as much time as they possibly can. We will help the students to research what it is that they're looking for. We'll talk to the students about what they want in terms of what kinds of files that they need. We'll talk to students about the business of clearing rights. And so the student will have the experience of having used a public archive which is being used by professional producers all the time. So yes, we're happy to do that, and we'll facilitate that in as professional a way as we would for any other customer.
I believe MACE is important because we very much preserve social history. We have so much footage of life in the Midlands dating back to the advent of cinema, more or less, and up until a few years ago with a few bits that came in on more recent video formats. And just having that history, that documentation of what life was like and is like, I feel is very important. We need to know our history.
We are collecting and preserving a perspective on the history and culture of the Midlands, and the perspective which we're responsible for is the one which is the Midlands, if you like, as seen through the lens of a moving image camera, and our interest is in the culture and history of the region in the broadest possible sense. So we're not only interested in the Midlands topographically, i.e. pictures of the Midlands or pictures of people from the Midlands. We're interested in every aspect of a Midlands way of life, whether that's corporate or personal, and wherever that happens. So if somebody offers us film of a family from Lichfield's holidays in Spain, well, that tells us something about the culture of people from Lichfield at that particular time, and so we wouldn't rule those sorts of things out. So it's a very broad remit, a very broad collection, and culturally I think film has a very particular ability to offer different perspectives on how we understand the past.
I think archive is incredibly important for giving people an understanding of where we come from, who we are, and also any film, any moving image is archive, because by the time you look back at this film, it will be archive, because unless you're watching something that's live, it's instantly archived. So everything we watch the entire world in the past through moving image.
I think the cultural relevance of MACE is the fact that this footage, documents our history in a way that you don't really get through history books or other types of resources, but it's also the way in which we can use the footage to illuminate projects that are being made now. I mean, when you start looking around at the type of thing that archive film is used in, it's in everything. It's in adverts, it's in TV programs, it's in music videos. So we're another place that has that, but we have it specific to the East and West Midlands. So you have some traditions and customs that don't take place anywhere else in the world that go on here, and I think that that's really important to preserve.
These films shouldn't be allowed to die. They need to be kept somewhere, and they need to be seen by as many people as possible.